and welcome back to the Tabletop Team. I'm your host, Joe, and with me again this week, I have my two amazing co-hosts.
This is Michael, live from bumfuck nowhere, Ohio.
And this is Julian, semi-live from a very similar area.
Yeah, that's a really fun short story. When we first met up playing D&D, how long has it been? 3 years now?
It's been a minute, yeah.
But it was just crazy that you guys were 15 minutes away from each other.
Blows my mind still.
But enough about that. We're talking about our good old tabletop games, and this week we are talking about RNG, RNGesus, or random number generation. That's when you roll a die, draw a card, and you don't know what the outcome is, but the outcome is determined by what it is. That made sense. So did either of you have things you wanted to start off? I got a couple things. I know Julian's been prepping. I think Mike's got no clue what we're doing this week.
Hey, I live my life 1/4 mile at a time.
I looked up quite a bit more on other games that weren't D&D related that use dice rolling and how that impacts the game. And I wanted to bring up a couple quick things that you guys will know about is doubles in game. So let me give you a good example. So in Monopoly, if you roll doubles, if you roll them 3 times in a row, you go to jail, and then you have to roll doubles to get out of jail. Are there other games that you guys know of that require some type of roll, and it's random, and maybe there's a benefit, or maybe there's a negative that happens?
I mean, we talked about a lot about this last time, but Catan, obviously, there's a roll at the start of every turn, and then if you roll a 7, which is the most common number, you get the robber, which is good for you and bad for everyone who isn't you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the robber is a rule that I always found really interesting and fascinating, because it's like, okay, so if it's right on the desert, or if you need to move it, you almost have to think well in advance of this. So you have to use that random luck in the moment. You don't get to bank it. So that's a really interesting one. I don't know if this is considered a tabletop game, but yeah. You guys ever played Craps, the casino style game or whatever?
Honestly, can't say I have.
I've never played it, but I've seen enough of it on TV and video games, so I'm sure I can be perfect at it in real life.
So when you're playing this game, the number 7 is either the best number to get because you win, or it's the worst number to get because you lose. And I find that incredible, because how often when you win, it doesn't show up, and how often when you lose, it absolutely shows up for that. It's like, hey, man, this is like a 1 when you needed to get a 20.
What are the rules of craps? I've never, like I said, I've only seen it on movies and TV and stuff where they just roll dice, and sometimes they have a sexy lady blow their hands.
Honestly, that's the main rule.
I mean, obviously the rules are roll dice, get money.
Yeah, so there are so many rules to that game, but the main thing is the game doesn't start until you roll a 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, and if you roll anything outside of that, the game doesn't start. So if the game's not starting, you just want to roll 7s and 11s. But also, there's so many ways to win. You roll 2 dice, and it's like, if you want snake eyes, or you want doubles, or you want any combination, anything that you can roll, you can place a bet on. And think about the odds of you rolling snake eyes. Well, it's like you put $20 down. You're definitely going to lose that $20 if you say, I'm going to roll snake eyes. Oh my God, what a horrible roll.
Okay, makes sense.
And then I'm assuming the worse the odds, the better the payout.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I want to say that each casino probably has their own rules for different roles. This is really hard to say rules and rolls over and over. It's like a tongue twister. Yeah. Craps is more of a social game.
Also, Risk is a very fun RNG-based game where you roll die, and whoever rolls better, you win.
I hate Risk, and I will tell you why. Because
Australia.
I've played it once in my life, and what happened was I was playing with my good friend Jeff and a couple other people, and this was my very first time playing Risk, and I got to go first somehow, and Jeff is telling me kind of what to do, and he keeps telling me, go, keep taking territories, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Thin the herd.
Exactly. And then I do that, my turn, and then he goes his next turn, wipes me off the game.
Yep. That's about how it goes.
That was my first game, first time. I was like, never again.
So the way to play Risk is you pick Australia and then you win. You just sit there and build your army, build your army, build your army. Don't take anything over, just build that army. And then all of a sudden Australia just comes out of nowhere and just wipes the board. Because you've only got 2 attack points.
Yeah, you can totally just keep banking it and banking it. So when they start coming at you, and hopefully you're playing with more than 2 people, because at that point, they're going to wipe out everyone, and then you can just like slow roll out of Australia.
I mean, it'll be just like real life when Australia gets involved in any war. They just show up with
Dude,
their kangaroos.
I don't think Australia would win in a war, and I don't want to get this podcast off on a tangent, but like, did you hear about the emu war? They lost to animals.
That is true. I forgot about the emu war. Declared war on emos and lost.
Yeah.
Listen, of course they lost to emos. They sit there and cut themselves for fun.
Oh my god!
Oh
No, emus, not emos.
I know, but Joe
I know.
definitely said emos.
but listen, just because I can't speak doesn't mean you can make fun of me for it. So with RNG games, I was really thinking about. Now I know these are a lot of child games I'm about to list, but I was thinking about how RNG is solely the purpose in winning, such as like
Yahtzee.
Yahtzee is one, but Yahtzee
War.
can be a little strategic. I'm thinking like Sorry, Parcheesi, even like Shoots and Ladders. Like those are games where it's like you don't get to. There is no strategy. It is a pure luck if you are going to win or lose that game, and it's almost like baffling when I thought about it. I'm like, this is like early gambling.
Oh yeah, Shoots and Ladders has got to be one of those games that I hate playing with my children, because if you get far enough in the board, there's one that takes you, and I don't know the correct one, but I think it might be like 70 or 80, takes you all the way back down to like 12 or 20. And it's like, oh great, this game keeps going. I said one game before bedtime. Now we're playing all night.
It's 3 days later.
Yeah. we're finishing this tomorrow, and it's a snow day. I'm like, dang it.
But yeah, that's just crazy to me. I think, like, how do these games get popular where it's just like, yes, you have no strategy, it is just luck.
I think that's what makes a really good game, actually, because you can jump right into a game with someone that's played it over and over and over, and you have just as great of an advantage playing than someone that's played for a while.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, like, Monopoly kind of falls under the same idea of, RNG, when it's like you can like think about buying properties and like what ones are better to get and trading and stuff, but really it comes down to who's going to land on your hotels first.
You mean who lands on Park Place and then gets snake eyes and lands on Boardwalk and picks those right up? That's who wins.
Is that you, Julian?
I
Every
freaking
time?
wish, man. That is never me. I get like Mediterranean and Baltic. My properties that I do like though in that game are those two that I just named, and then the orange and red ones, man. If people go to jail and then they gotta roll right into your orange and red property.
See, the secret is you don't even want to roll well with monopolies right off the bat. You want all those shitty properties that, like, you can buy the set for a very small amount of money. Boardwalk and Park Place aren't even worth it, because the statistical likelihood that you're going to land on those spaces isn't very high. But if you're hitting like all the blues with hotels, all the greens with hotels, like you can take over control over an entire side of the board and just be like, oh yeah, you're coming up on my side.
Mm-hmm. My in-game strategy in Monopoly is kind of my in-game strategy in life, is to just be in jail the entire time. Let everyone else be paying rent, man. I'm over here getting 3 hots and a cot every single day.
I should mention too, for this podcast, last one was just audio only, but we can actually see each other's faces, so it's really adding to the moment. I just got to throw that out there.
Yeah.
If anybody notices a slightly different energy.
I also am using a different cologne today, so I'm kind of change it up every podcast.
I can't wait till smell-o-vision happens.
The world's worst idea.
Or the
Oh,
best,
yeah.
man. Think about the commercials. That'd be great.
Yeah, think about commercials.
Yeah, I
They
guess
aren't always food commercials.
Yeah, you're right. Goodness. My brain just went a million miles.
The smell-o-vision commercial for Pepto-Bismol? No, thank you.
All I was thinking is Trojan condoms. Like, oh, what the hell is this?
The Filet-O-Fish commercial would be a whole different commercial.
But going back to Monopoly,
Right.
I haven't played a lot of Monopoly games myself because two things happen. Either I get bored really quick and just leave, or I get bored really quick and I strike deals with everybody where I say, look, I'm going to just give you my property and I get 10% of your profits. And then I give them out. I get all these 10% profit deals and I go, I'm set for life. Bye, people.
Yeah, Monopoly is one of those games that everyone has, but no one likes to play.
No, and then they get the variants. Okay, so my kids got Monopoly Cheaters Edition. Have you guys heard of this?
I have. That one I'm actually, out of all the Monopoly editions, there's 2 out there that I'm very interested about. That is one of them.
What's the other one?
Oh, the other one is, again, going back to my friend Jeff, because he is just a source of inspiration for me. He had, at his parents' house, they have reverse Monopoly, which is like supposed to be like, I don't know how it works. It's like a communist game, but like I keep asking him, like, can we play this? I just want to see what it's like. And he's like, no, it's for communists. I'm like, no, why is it in your house then?
Everyone starts with all the properties.
That's what I think it is. I'm pretty sure it's like everybody starts with different properties and you slowly like give them back to the government or something.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. Like I said, I've never even opened the box. He just has a box that says Reverse Monopoly, and I wanted to know what it is, and we never played it. Jeff, I'm calling you out if you're listening to this.
The secret is it's just an empty box. There's no actual game. Because in communism, you get nothing.
It's still better than normal Monopoly.
So with Cheaters Monopoly, you get like a card, and if you're able to play the card, like which the card might, and I haven't played it in a while, but it might say like steal money from the bank, or don't pay rent, or roll or move your token more spaces than you were supposed to. You get a bonus after that. You'll get like maybe money or an additional roll or something. I can't remember all the rules, but it does add a level of, I get to watch my children lie to me and figure them out. I get to find their poker faces, you know, and so that's like a really nice thing. I'm like, then I'm at the dinner table at questioning them something, and I'm like, I saw you play Monopoly Cheaters Edition recently. You're just telling me the same thing.
Julian, there's a wonderful game called Bullshit. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Well, we call it Kulo, and it's the same thing. That means ass, and so you like you have to keep playing cards and everything, and like lie about how many you put down, and you know it's the same thing as Bullshit. I like that. But man, I got to show you guys these Spanish cards sometime. Like they're really weird and trippy. They don't have like the hearts or diamonds or spades or clubs. They're really weird.
It's a taco, a burrito,
No,
enchilada.
It's not Mexican cards. It's Spanish cards.
No, I know. They saw an opportunity. Like most Americans don't know the difference.
Dude, they don't either, man. My wife gets told all the time, like, you don't look Spanish, and she's like, yeah, I do.
But the other thing I wanted to say about Monopoly was I haven't played a lot of games, but one thing I have done is I watched a lot of YouTube videos of people playing them because they get into some really fun arguments in those videos. But one thing I've seen consistently in every game is if you have all 4 railroads, you're almost guaranteed victory.
Yeah, that 200 upfront cost with no hotels or houses investment is just, it's nice.
I think another advantage of having the 4 railroad properties is being able to have a spot on each side of the board that is a safe zone for you to land on as well. And that comes in clutch, because then you might have to pay the property or the luxury tax or get a chance card, but then bonus railroad land. That's not a bad position to be in, especially in game.
Yeah.
So going back to Yahtzee, that is one of the craziest games that I didn't know that there's variables on how to play that. I thought it was just straight up, you get these ones, but people like you bid on different things. I was trying to look it up and find different rules. So there's so many variants on Yahtzee that I couldn't even, pick one to just dive into. So I'm just going to go with the base Yahtzee. How frustrating is it when you're getting like all 6s, but you've already laid out your 6s and what is that one that's like random? That game sucks.
Chance.
Yeah, chance. So that game sucks because now you have like 1 6 or 1 4 and you're playing your ones. You're taking away a whole point system just because you're like, well, maybe I'll get it later.
So the secret to that is, and the tops, I've played a lot of Yahtzee because it's one of my kids' favorite game. And the secret to that is, in order to get bonus up top, you have to get 3 of every number in the score category. Well, obviously, that score is weighted differently if you are short 1-6 versus 1-1. So basically, your ones become essentially another chance place because, oh no, I'm minus 3 points. If I get plus any die other than 2, if I get a 4 or more, boom, I've covered that.
Yeah, I wish I played Yahtzee more to have a strategy, but really I'm just rolling this thing going, okay, what is it? You know, to the counting. That is another one that is pure chance sometimes. Because what do you get to roll twice, or do you get to roll,
You roll
3 times?
times.
3 times, yeah.
There are very many like key plays. One of them is I don't ever roll for large straight unless it's like one of the last things that I don't have, because every once in a while you just get that first roll of like, okay, 1 through 5. All right, here we go. Turns over.
Thank you.
Next one.
Yeah.
And then like Yahtzee, you want to leave till the end, but it's like 9 times out of 10 that game's who wins is determined by whether or not you get bonus.
Yeah, what is the point system for bonus? It's a big number.
If you get 63 points or more, you get a extra 35 points.
I've never played Yahtzee. I know how to play it. I've seen it before, but I've never actually like played it. The games in my family were Clue, which we talked about last time, and the Game of Life. We played that all the time, especially the PS1 version. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but it's like really 90s animated. Like all the characters have like these massive heads, and they do like these goofy animations. And then as you go across the board, you get to like different eras of time. You go up like increments of 10 years or whatever each time, and the music changes. It was really fun. That's another game that's pretty much random based now that I think about it. You get like to choose career or college. And then if you land on night school, you get to choose if you do that. But like most of those things are just like land here, do what it says, go on, see who wins life.
Yeah, everyone loses at the end.
The great thing about Yahtzee is it's a game that doesn't require a whole lot of pieces. So if you're trying to entertain young children and you're like, well, I've got 5 dice and a pen and piece of paper, we're playing Yahtzee.
See, that's the thing. Joe doesn't have any dice.
No, absolutely not. Or if he does have them, all they roll is ones.
Joe's holding up a giant 20 or D20.
I got one somewhere. I think it's in my D&D bag. Got like it's more of a counter die than an actual rolling die, but it's like this big. That's perfect for audio. It's that big.
Yes. I'm not going to describe it.
I'd probably just, this whole thing will probably get cut, or I'm going to leave it in to make me seem like an asshole.
It's that big. I'm trying to think of other random chance games. You ever play War? I think I mentioned this earlier, but
yeah, War is that's the card game, right?
Right. Yeah.
Playing cards. Yeah, that's another good. I mean, we really talked about a lot of dice here. We didn't really talk about card drawing. Like, I think,
but you can even do it with dice.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, because I mean, especially if you got like a bunch of them, and that would be a lot of fun. Especially if you played it like Pogs back in the day, man. I'll take your dice, Joe. We're gonna one day just play. Mail them to me, dude.
Nope.
Listen, the greatest RNG based card game is the Deck of Many Things, and I will die on this hill.
But yeah, I just realized, isn't like Sorry, like, even though you draw cards, aren't there numbers on it? So that's like a weird mix. Like, am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. It is a hybrid game.
Yes. We're going to take this very simple idea and make it more complex. Someone at Hasbro, probably.
Yes, we're just going to take it and make it easier to lose all the pieces.
What is that game where they have the dice in like a bottle, or not a bottle, but in like a little plastic dome, and you like push it and it flips it? What is that? Not Sorry?
That's Trouble, I think.
Trouble. This whole time we've been talking about Sorry, I've been thinking of Trouble.
Well, the thing is, they're very similar games.
Are they?
Like, you have 4 pieces. You need to get them. You need to get like a certain number to get them out of like your area. You got to go around the entire board and then get them up into a safe spot, and you have to get like the exact number. Like, it's almost identical. It's just Trouble uses a die and Sorry uses card drawing.
The only difference is the level of annoyance it is to be someone who's in the room as someone who is playing either Sorry or Trouble.
Well, also, I think Sorry also does have those cool like sliding parts too on them.
Yeah, but I mean, let's be honest. Most people don't care unless it's like.
Oh yeah.
You got the times when it's like it just pops the die up and then lands right back down on the same number. You're like, well, no, that doesn't count, so I have to do it again. And heaven forbid you have a migraine and someone's playing that game.
Well, did you guys want to talk about any other board games, or do we want to start going into our 5e chats?
Let's get in the 5e. Let's
Hit
do
the
it.
5th edition.
So, as per usual, and by usual I mean we started this tradition last episode, but we're going to start off with a bit of news that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. But it's something I want to talk about anyways on the podcast. So this week, which again is to date the podcast, Wizards of the Coast released some new Unearthed Arcana where they added a bunch of Fey-Wild races to play as. You can play as a pixie, a Fey hobgoblin, an owl folk, and a rabbit folk. Now, one of the two big glaring things here is one is that pixies are only the small category, even though everyone knows they're like 6 inches. And the rabbit folk has a very terrible ability where you can hop, but you have to roll a d12, and whatever number you land on is the number you get to hop, like the number of feet. Everyone in the D&D universe uses 5 feet movement speed. So like if you have roll like a 1 through a 4, you're not moving anywhere technically.
So I have a question about this, and I know that we talked about this, in our Discord chat, but I thought about a little bit more about the rabbit one. So can you just take a normal jump and it doesn't do the D12?
I mean, you can always do jump. It's just that's just the ability they gave them here. Let me.
Well, because in my head I'm sitting here going like, oh, we just gotta hop over this little thing.
I mean, if you're a rabbit, you can always ride on someone's shoulder.
Oh yeah, how big is the rabbit?
You get to choose. You can be a medium or small humanoid. I pulled it up right here. The ability is called Rabbit Hop. Once during each of your turns, when you walk at least 5 feet, you can hop, rolling a d12 and moving that many feet in a direction of your choice. This extra distance doesn't count as movement, but you can only hop if your speed isn't 0.
Okay, so it's like bonus movement and not the only way that you can move in combat.
Yeah, but it's still, it's kind of stupid just being a. I don't understand it, because in the rule books, like freaking anything that's official Wizards of the Coast is always in 5-foot increments, and to be like, here you get to move up to 12 feet. What does that mean?
I mean, obviously, you just roll a d2, and if you roll a 1, you move an extra 5 feet, and you roll a 2, you move an extra 10 feet. Because that's what it's going to be simplified as.
Yeah, I almost want to do what they do. Like if I run it, I personally kind of want to do like Tabaxi rules. So you can hop. I would say you roll a d4, you can times that by 5, and that's how far you can hop. But then you have to like move 0 feet your next turn, or you have to spend a turn moving 0 feet in order to get that back, like how Tabaxis have their double speed thing. That's my opinion on how I would run it, but that was like one of the glaring things on these new creatures races they released.
Listen, all I have to say is if you're not going to play a pixie barbarian, why do you even play the game?
I think that playing a pixie would be incredible. What are some of the spells that they have? Like, what is some of the what kind of, or not? What are some of the spells? But what are some of the kind of race features that the pixie has?
So the fairy/pixie, you have a flying speed equal to your walking speed and can hover. You know the druid craft and fairy fire spells, and you can cast fairy fire without expending a spell slot like most races. And then you also have this thing called Fey Passage. You can squeeze through a space as narrow as 1 inch wide.
Wow.
And obviously, much like what are they called? The Kenkus, you can only say, "Hey, listen."
Yeah, that's what their language is, actually. It just says, hey, listen.
Yeah. Do you got to clap if they go down, like instead of rolling?
If they go down, you need to get the entire world to believe in fairies.
Peter Pan rules, guys.
The hobgoblins are actually really interesting because they have something called Fey Gift. So you can use this trait to take the help action as a bonus action, which is what the Mastermind Rogue can do. But unlike the Mastermind Rogue, who can do it every turn, they can only do it a number of times equal to their proficiency, and they don't have it on range. But then they also get all these extra things. So, like, if whoever you give the help action to, you can do things like you and the target gain temporary hit points, your speed increases, or creatures that you hit with the help action get disadvantage on their next attack, which is really interesting. It really kind of broadens like the ideas of the help action, which I don't think gets taken in combat enough, to be honest. Like most of the time it's done, if it's in combat, it's done by like a familiar.
So it sounds like that race specifically would mesh really well with a bard and bardic inspiration, because obviously both of those resources are limited. But now instead of, oh hey, you get an extra little bump to your roll, oh hey, here's the advantage.
Yeah.
So one thing that I'm thinking is, how incredible is fairy, pixie, rogue? You know, I mean, you're so small, you got to be able to hide behind so much, and you have the flying.
Rules is written compared to rules for fun. That doesn't say, the pixie doesn't have anything specific that says you can hide, like how halflings? I think halflings have the ability where you can just hide behind anything.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
obviously the gust cantrip would just be your mortal enemy.
Well, that was another thing I was thinking, is that how weak is a fairy going to be? Because I was like, oh, you could like go do something and like take an item. Like, what are you carrying with you?
I imagine it's probably like the orc, where it gets, instead of getting a plus 2 intelligence, like the orc I believe gets -2. So I'm assuming strength would also be at like a -2.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, they got rid of that in the recent errata. They got rid of any races that have a negative. So orcs -2, and then I think the kobolds -2 for their strength. They got rid of. They didn't want to give any race a drawback. Personally, I would if I play an orc, I'll probably still take the -2 penalty, because I think that's a good role playing aspect built
Yeah.
into the character. But they fixed that. Let me just read to you. So there's all these characteristics for playing Fey characters, specifically the fairies. Let me just read you this list, because one of these is not like the other. Okay, you have small wings like an insect. You have shimmering multicolored skin. You have exceptionally large ears. A constant glittering mist surrounds you. You have small spectral horns on your forehead like a unicorn horn. Your hands never look dirty. A noticeable harmless chill surrounds you. You smell like fresh brownies.
Yeah, you're right. That unicorn horn thing was weird. Okay, so I just was talking about, and I want to talk about the brownie things, but I think this kind of goes into what I'm about to say, is that if you were a rogue and you are glittery all over the place, yeah, I don't think you're going to be hiding that well. You're super shiny and you got brownie smell. Oh my God, there's a fairy around here.
That definitely would come into play if I had somebody say, "Yeah, I smell like brownies," and you're a rogue assassin. Yeah.
It's that
What
freaking
could
fairy
possibly
again.
Listen, I'm an orc wizard. Don't at me.
Orc wizard. Didn't you? Someone played an orc wizard. I know we played. Someone was an orc
I
wizard.
played a
once.
one shot.
Oh,
where
okay,
I was an orc, a wild magic sorcerer orc, who was convinced that he was a wizard because he was so dumb. But his parents gave him a little spell book that was just a coloring book and the pointy hat and everything.
I'm telling you, that's some of the most fun ways to play D&D, is when you have those combos that are, kind of opposite. Like a fairy barbarian would be a really interesting, or even like a gnome barbarian. Like I like that's so fun.
Fairy gunslinger.
That's amazing.
Your firing effects would be pew pew.
Yeah.
Again, this is, of course, just Unearthed Arcana, which is always like the playtest material, so it's always subject to change, but it's still always interesting to talk about. So let's go into more about our actual topic, RNG. Did you guys have anything fun you wanted to talk about rolling dice and stuff in D&D, or any stories?
Obviously, it's always fun when the shiny math rocks go click clack.
I know that. See, I have so much to talk about, but I want to bring up one thing. Is I think it's significantly more fun to roll physical dice than it is to have the number generator just do it. But I know how convenient it is to have the number generator. But another thing is, I don't always hate rolling a 1. Sometimes, for story purposes, it is absolutely incredible to just be like, I need it over a 12. Oh, I rolled a 1. Oh, what is about to happen here? Or if you're trying to do something like, I want to charm this person. No, you rolled a 1. This person hates you.
I don't mind rolling a 1. I think it's when ones get clustered together, you're just like, okay, well, I'm just useless, so...
Yeah, when you spend a turn and you go, I'm going to attack. Oh, that's a 1. Guess that's the end of my turn. And then you go next turn and you go roll another one. You're like, well, that's the end of my turn.
And like obviously, like for me, a lot of times if I do roll a 1, and like yeah, it's a 1, it happens. But like if something like if there are severe consequences because of that, like say if I didn't kill the enemy because I rolled a 1, and then like on their turn they killed an ally, like I'm gonna feel guilty about that, even though I didn't really directly cause it. It's just one of those things where you're like, yeah, it's on me, guys. Sorry.
I know for a fact there was one time when we were playing, and I was Flint, the cleric, and I kept rolling really poor, and I couldn't heal anyone. I couldn't do anything, and then I was just rolling death saves, and it was like even those. I think I rolled a 1, and it was like a double death, and it sucked, And like it's just like tonight sucks. I want to go home. But we always played online,
But
so I
I
was
am
home.
home.
I know, right? So, but it's just like I was like, I want to not be doing. Like, can we go back to like anywhere else where we were having fun, just doing things? But then on the flip side, when you hit those 20s, oh man, when you hit those 20s, I think they're worth every single one I ever rolled. Other than when it's like, hey, I want to do this dumb thing. 20. Dang it! It's like 5 minutes into this.
What a waste.
Yeah.
No, clutch 20s are always fun. I mean, obviously, what comes to mind for me is in our campaign where, long story short, we were fighting a dragon turtle. One of our party members was dead, and the other was unconscious, and the 2 remaining party members were on a combined total of 6 HP. And we had to convince the dragon turtle to not kill us, and that 120 was about all I had.
Yeah.
To save us from a TPK.
That was a Joe accident there. He was like, "Oh, I think the party was like level 10 at that point.
We might have been 11.
Might have been 11, but I was like, they can handle this." No, they could not. To be fair, the main gimmick of that was to take out the siren that was controlling the dragon turtle. Based on previous fights, I thought you guys would have been able to handle a round or two of the dragon turtle's attacks while focusing on the siren, which was controlling it. You take that out, and then like I would have had like a low DC check. Obviously, things were very different in that case, and we got really lucky, and I had story-based contingencies already planned for like people's deaths and stuff. Surprisingly, nothing was made up on the spot for that fight, because the character did actually have a ring of wishes.
I gotta say, sometimes when we had those really difficult battles where they seemed to take like the entire 4 hours that we'd play, and it was only like 20 minutes of like in-game time, that those emotions you have with those dice roll. But no, I remember be like practicing my dice rolls as if that were like, like a batter taking swings, like, okay, what am I getting? I'm like, oh my God, these are a lot of 3s. This is not going to be good. I remember there was one night where I don't know if it was a bunch of 1s in a row or a lot of low numbers, but there's a red die. So Joe, you had sent us all a bunch of dice packs, and they were all different colors, or at least mine were. There's a red die that I to this day I still do not use, and like I've thought about like bringing it back into rotation, but I hate that night. Really angered me to the point where an inanimate object is shunned in my home.
That's the thing called a dice jail. Most players have one. I will occasionally switch out dice, but I tend to stick to 2 just in case I'm rolling with advantage versus disadvantage. I will say though that metal die don't tend to roll as well as the plastic ones, so it's more likely where it is when you release it is more likely where it's going to be as it ends up.
This one. So I'm holding up the red die. I even had to find it because it wasn't in just like the normal, because I have like all my stuff like right in here.
Assert your dominance, just melt it.
Oh man, I would, but like the thing that I'm hoping happens someday is that where I can like, and I do this with my kids sometimes where we play D&D, but I don't play with all the dice. So I'm hoping that I have like enough dice to like have a couple people in a campaign like in person, and they'd be like, "Oh, I don't have dice. Don't worry, I got you covered." So I mean, I dream.
Yeah, I use like 4 dice normally. That's just because I'm normally running it. If I'm a player, I will only use 2 dice, but if I'm DMing, I have at least 4 d20s that I use, and I use at least one of the ones I got. So I went on a trip like a year or 2 ago now. God, it's been a year, I think.
Well, I mean, we've been in code for a year.
No, it was a decade last year. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're
so
right.
it's been like 12 years.
Oh,
COVID
crap.
time.
Anyways, I went to a nice little halfway across the country trip, not only to see things, but to also visit all these great people I met on the internet. And one of my stops was in Texas, and I was hanging out with our friend Haley. We went to a comic book shop, and they had a bowl of dice and a thing next to it to test out the die. I just reached in, picked one up. I'm like, oh, this is fun. I'll just, whatever it is, I'll buy it. I roll it. It came up a nat 1. I'm like, nope. Put it back, grabbed up the next one, rolled a nat 20. I'm like, this one's coming home with me.
Right.
And that one rolled fire for so long. And then, as Mike can attest to our more recent games, has been rolling complete garbage recently.
That happens.
Do you guys ever name your dice? I don't, but if I had a really great die, I would totally name it.
This one's called Pablo, but
Oh,
it's
nice.
because there's a penguin. I think you guys should be able to see it on the camera.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
There's a penguin inside of it. I never actually used it in game because it just feels unbalanced.
That's fair.
Just rolls a 5 every time.
That's an 8. That's an 18. That's a 13. That's not too
Yeah,
bad.
Pretty good,
Well,
decent.
I never use it
Yeah.
during the game because I'm pretty sure this is not it. You can clearly see the penguin is on one side of the die.
So I have to ask Joe, as our resident DM, do you have a player killer dice? Do you have a dice that has a tendency to roll really well at the worst times and lead to unfortunate consequences?
I think I do. I think it's actually this one right here. I think it's this like darker red one I have.
Why does it have a bunch of hash marks in it?
I think this one tends to be like really bad when I'm like, I'm trying to think. I don't think have I killed anyone on purpose or not on purpose before?
I mean, I know you probably threaten it to Flint like
I
every
threaten
game.
you guys. I threaten people all the time because it's
Yeah.
fun. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've actually like. I don't think I've. Oh, to be fair, I have in my other campaign, Barwalk, one of our characters, Lugas. They are now known for dying as a pastime. Like,
Like Kenny?
they've had to be revived a few times. Like, but I'm gonna argue that most of the time it's not my fault. Sometimes it's story things like. They got turned into a vampire at one point. There's this magical wine in my world that actually will send you to crap.
Ravenloft?
Raven? No, it's whatever the heaven equivalent. It's like Mount Celeste. Like there's a wine that will actually send your soul to Mount Celeste, and so like they drank it and essentially died, and people are like ah, and then the owner's like, this is normal.
So with random, numbers with dice rolls, what do you guys feel about spells that increase that advantage or disadvantage? So I know that the cleric has, I want to say it's guidance. It gives you a plus D4 to your roll.
Yeah, they have guidance, bless, bane.
Yeah, the bards also have bardic inspiration. Don't you get to add to your roll?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
yeah. So what do you guys feel about those? How those impact the game?
They're more fun in my opinion, like especially a bardic inspiration where it's like you roll a d20, you know what you're trying to hit, and you're like, I need to get a certain number on this bardic inspiration die to succeed or we are screwed. Those are fun moments.
I definitely like them as well. I'm more like bane though, because it's always fun to just be like the player with low health getting hit, and it's like, wait, you forgot to subtract a d4, and then all of a sudden that hit, that potential killing blow goes into, oh well, I guess I missed.
Oh yeah. So what exactly does Bane do? Because I've used it before, but I forget.
It's the
exact-
opposite of bless.
Yeah, so it's minus d4 to attacks and saving throws.
Oh nice.
And the weird thing is it targets charisma saving throws, which isn't a very common saving throw in 5th edition at least.
So one thing that I always thought was interesting. So we played our campaign. Someone was a rogue trickster, I believe, is what Mitch was.
That was
Arcane trickster.
Yeah, and
Mitch was the rogue trickster.
so it would be like, because my character wore heavy armor, so anytime we had to like sneak or something, man, I was getting like minus so much to everything else.
You had a -1 to your dex, and then you also were wearing heavy armor, so you
Yeah.
had disadvantage.
So I always had like horrible rolls for that. But he would be like, I don't know, 105. I'm like, but not actually 105, but it was always like significant. I was like, how low would you have to roll to fail? Because he always could sneak. It was crazy.
Well, because there's a certain point where rogues get an ability where no matter what you roll, as long as it's not a nat 1, it counts as a 9.
Oh wow, okay.
And then on top of that, you can get
Expertise.
They get expertise, which doubles their proficiency for certain skills. So you focus on stealth, that instantly is like by level 3, that's you could have that. Even level 1, that's you could potentially have that as a +9, right? If you have a +5 and then it's double expertise, so it'd be a +2 proficiency. So yeah, you could have a +9 to stealth on level 1 if you rolled really
Holy
well.
cow. Yeah, I knew that I took a level of rogue just so I could balance out that, because every time we go into a dungeon, I just be clamoring along, like clang, 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 clang. It's like, okay, just stop for a minute. We're setting off every trap and everyone knows we're here. And everyone else was being real silent.
So on that topic, do you guys have any theories as to whether or not like your dice rolls tell you that you are not allowed to play that class? Because I'm not allowed to play rogue. I played rogue in one campaign, and in that campaign, it was about a month long. I never rolled above a 5.
Oh.
Ever. Straight up not above a 5. So I have a self-imposed rogue ban where I'm not allowed to play rogue.
I'm trying to think of all the classes I've officially played. I've played sorcerers, I've played barbarians, I've played an artificer. I think that's the extent of what I've actually played myself, at least in memory's sake. And I don't think I've really done I don't think I have any self-imposed bad classes.
Yeah, I also don't have a robust list of classes I've played, but what I will say is I stay away from anything that isn't just like almost a guaranteed hit, because there's a couple like things you can just roll and it is just a damage hit, and I like those the best. It's like this automatically hits. You don't have to roll for attack or something. I think guiding light
Magic
was one.
missile.
Is that another one? Yeah, I like that, where I take away some of that chance.
Yeah, I feel we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Murica campaign. Our gnome dad Maynard, he is not a gnome, halfling. He's a halfling divination wizard
with
who has the
lucky.
lucky feat, which means, so we'll go from race and up. So halfling means he has lucky, which means if he rolls a natural 1, he gets to re-roll that for nothing. And then he has 3 luck points, so he can re-roll or have anything attacking him re-roll. And then he also has divination, which means every long rest he has 2 times where he can say, this is the number that was rolled on that die.
Also something called improved halfling luck that
Yes, I think he's going to take that as well. So basically, there's a certain point you can take another feat as a halfling where you can use your reaction to give someone else your lucky ability. So if they roll an at 1, he can use his reaction, and an ally can re-roll that nat 1.
Oh my god.
He can't use his lucky feature again until the end of his next turn when he does that, which is like the balance, but it is still very good. He controls the dice in this game.
he is the dice in this game.
Yeah, anything in D&D 5e that you can, adjust the dice rolls just with your, abilities, it is incredible. And you have to take advantage of that. But you constantly have to be paying attention to other people's dice rolls to know when it is and when you can use that ability. Because guys, on a reaction, like you got to be like, oh, I got a reaction for this thing. Like I can do this. And man, that would be such a cool character trait to do or to have.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun build. I believe it's referred to as the Mr. Bean build.
Oh, nice.
Because
just
he's
so lucky.
Yeah.
On brand.
Oh man, there's so much I want to talk about, but I don't think we really have time for it. Like, there's the deck of many things.
No, man, save for the Patreon.
If we get to a point where we have a Patreon, that would be amazing.
That would be hilarious.
What's more frustrating as a DM? Having a player who has advantage who rolls 1 and 2s, or disadvantage at 20 and a 19?
Ooh.
I think the advantage of rolling 1 and 2, because every time I give my players advantage and they roll shit, I go, even with advantage? Like, I am a DM who roots for their players. Like, if they roll with disadvantage, roll a 19 and a 20, I go, good.
Yeah.
But if they roll, cause I'm like, that means they avoided that crit, but they could still do something fun. But if I give them advantage and they fail, like miserably. I'm like, oh man, we all wanted to see the cool thing happen.
Right. That's exactly
I
what
had
it
to
is.
bring that up because in our latest America campaign, that happened to me. Both in one session, got hit with advantage, rolled a 1 and a 2, hit with disadvantage, rolled a 20 and a 19.
I gotta
Yep.
say, as a player though, getting advantage and rolling a 1 and a 2 would actually be like, oh, good, thank you. I'm so glad that I had advantage because that 1 would have effed me. Because Joe, as nice as he is about a 20, oh, not so nice. He's an evil boy when I roll a 1. It's not fun.
I've always been brutal with my
Yeah.
20s and 1s. Like ever since my early days of just making up RPGs on the spot. Crit fails and crit successes it just adds to the flavor to be like I get some people are like, "Oh, can't you just like miss?" I'm like, "No, it's funny if if somebody like overcompensates and throws their sword or they accidentally hit themselves with their sword." Like it
Oh,
just makes
I think that's one thing that happened one time is I hit someone with my because I think I had a spoon or something and it got lodged in them and I had to roll to get it out again.
yeah.
And it was like, okay, so now I don't even have a weapon now, like that sucks.
Hold on, let me see if I could find something right over here. I just got one last thing I think that's kind of cool to talk about.
So, Julian, I don't know if you've ever had the chance to roll metal versus plastic die, but do you have thoughts or opinions on that?
Okay,
Do you
so
like
no,
metal or better or plastic or?
I've never rolled them, but I've always. I think you have some metal dice. I think Haley had some. I think Joe had some. Like whenever I heard it go "doo-doo-doo-doo" I'm like hearing it through I'm like, oh yeah, and I always was like, is it a good roll? It almost makes it like because mine just go click clack, and it's like, oh, what was that, huh? But when it's like robust roll, it almost is like it just adds to that
It adds
feeling.
gravity to the roll
Yeah,
every time.
yeah, I love it. I want a set, but I don't feel like I've earned it, if that makes sense, because I don't play enough.
You don't. There is no such thing as earning metal die. If you have adult money, you can buy whatever kind of die you want.
Well,
You can
unfortunately,
buy.
I have 4 kid money.
Well, you have 4 kids. That means you have 8 expendable kidneys.
Oh my god. I disagree. What if I need more kidneys? I harvest these kids' organs now. I have 8 expendable kidneys.
I just wanted to show this thing off on the camera, but I can describe it very easily. So I got this thing from a Kickstarter. It's this cool, it looks like a bottle, and
Yeah.
it's got this thing on the bottom, which works like I can't really show it on the camera, but it works like a magic 8-ball, and it's called the Magical Draft of Happenstance. And this is another, like, this is kind of, think the deck of many things, but extremely light. So, like, you drink it, and then it does, so like you look at the thing, it says, so in this case it says it's not showing up,
Give your co-host all your dice.
potion of false vigor, and then there's like a list of cards. But like I use this in my bar walk campaign, and Bernard the Bard, played by Jeff, drank it, and I think the first thing he did immediately was like go blind. Like it made him blind for like an hour, and then when it wore off, he drank it again to see what it would do, and it made him like experience his deepest fear for another hour. And then Henrik took it, and he's like, he's not getting this back, and they haven't used it since, but I have it in physical form. And I just think it's really cool that there are people out there who are coming up with stuff like this.
This is something that makes me excited to play D&D live, because if you handed that to me and I was like, okay, here we go, and you top it up and you look at it, that just adds even more to what we're doing. Which, like the deck of many things, like if you were to fan those cards out and like I drew one, or because I know we used it in our campaign, but I think that
We got some
anything,
right here.
yeah, anything to add more flavor to the physical experience is so much fun.
I actually have 2 decks of many things. I got one from, I don't know what this company's called. I'm sorry, company. Oh, it's just called the Deck of Many. That's what their company's called.
It's called China.
I got those, and then I eventually got some on Etsy, which I really like. But my sister has those because her character currently has the Deck of Many things in our campaign. So
I would also love to see a deck of pointless items where it's just a bunch of magical items, but they're basically just useless. Like, something that comes to mind right now is like a trumpet of chicken summoning, and once per day you can play this trumpet and you just get a chicken.
I love stuff and spells like that. Like, I gave Henrik a spell that lets him summon up to 3 sheep.
What?
But that's all it does. He has no control over them. He just uses a spell slot. He has to bleat like a sheep, and depending on how well he does, I choose how many sheep show up, and they are just there. They don't do anything else. They are just sheep. But he actually used, the first time he used the spell, he used it in a really good moment. They were being attacked by lava bears.
Lava bears.
Yes, there's a whole story behind that, which I'll have to save for another time.
Yeah.
But they needed a distraction to get out because one of the players was down. So he goes over to like a group of them, uses this spell, and now suddenly there's free food for the lava bears. But that's for another time, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would love to have an episode of this podcast where we talk about like deck of many things, wonders things, like those kind of spells that kind of add to the game without directly impacting the game. That'd be really cool to see how much we could come up for that.
Well, it depends on how it's done, because the deck of many things, I've learned how to twist it so it's not as impactful, but that is definitely, the deck of many things can definitely end games.
Yeah, because isn't one of them wish or something?
Rather than that, you get a ring of wishes with 1d3 wishes.
What? Holy
Yeah,
cow,
so
man.
you can get 1 wish, or you can get up to 3 wishes.
Can you use them in
that's
tandem, or do you have to wait for your roll? Sorry, yeah, we'll talk about this in another time. Yeah,
Another episode.
yeah, because I'll keep going.
Did you guys have any closing thoughts about RNG?
It's one of my favorite parts about D&D because it does take away, especially at lower levels when you're learning, like how I feel like I constantly am right now with D&D, is it takes away a lot of the, okay, you have to know so much. It's like, hey, just roll really well. Stop rolling bad.
I think one of my favorite parts of it is when you have a character who's supposed to be good at one thing, and then another character who's supposed to be terrible at it, and the good character rolls a 1, and the terrible character rolls really high, and it's just like, isn't this supposed to be your whole thing?
Mm-hmm. It's like when an orc rolls really well on an intelligence check, but the wizard is rolling horrible, and everyone that's playing is sitting there going like, we know this isn't right, but we have to play. Like, yeah, that is a really fun way to role play.
My build off on that is one of my favorite from season 1 of Critical Role. Whenever Grog had like a smart idea, Travis would play him having like a brain aneurysm. Yeah, I'm getting an idea. Those are the best ones. But yeah, the world of randomness is just trying to impede the real world into our games. So let's put an end to it. That's my final thought. Structure, order, and civility.
No, I demand chaos.
Did you guys have anything you want to plug?
I will be, as a resident way too old to be playing video games on the internet and streaming it person, I will be playing Skyrim on the hardest difficulty as a mage build on Friday nights. My Twitch username is mboron0219. And if you want to see someone lose all faith in themselves and get really frustrated, come check me out.
I don't have anything to plug, but I'm going to work on this. I'm going to plug something. Someday I will plug something, and it's going to be good. I don't know what it will be yet.
Just charge your phone.
I, of course, will plug the Tabletop Team Twitch, where not consistently, but like on every other-ish week, we play our America campaign, and we tried to stream that. We successfully did it the last 2 times. Technically, we did it 2 times. It's just the first of those 2 times. I didn't save it, so it's not archived. I do have the archive footage of our last stream, which I have to edit because it's in a couple chunks, but I'm going to put that up on the internet with maybe like a prelude, but you can come check us out, play America and hunt cryptids. We have a fun time there. If you have any questions, comments, or idea, topic suggestions for the show, you can either tweet me at DMJoeThunder, or you can email us at thetabletopteampodcast@gmail.com. I think that's it. Welcome to the Tabletop Team.